Is Jack Jack going to be the villain of Incredibles 3? Incredibles 3 was announced at D23, and so I had to go back and rewatch The Incredibles and Incredibles 2, along with the two shorts Jack Jack Attack and Auntie Edna. And these four films have set up a path for The Incredibles' next big foe to be none other than Jack Jack, if they decide to go in that direction. So what is there for Jack Jack being the next villain? Well, we've got the main premise of the first two films were all about why you should or shouldn't have superheroes in society, with the first film superheroes being completely illegal and Syndrome on purposely trying to make everyone super so that no one will be anymore. And the second film is all about the Devas trying to make superheroes legal again, with them becoming legal by the end of the film, but the screenslaver trying to frame superheroes so that they are never made legal again. And so with Incredibles 3, it's going to be the first time in the franchise, apart from the prologue in the first film, where we get to see a world where superheroes are legal. And with that comes the likelihood of people finding reasons as to why the last 15 years of no superheroes was better. And a classic way to do that is to have the superheroes make the place more dangerous by getting superheroes to fight other superheroes. We've never actually had a so-called supervillain in these films yet. Syndrome had a messed up childhood because all he wanted to be was a superhero, and so he makeshifted his own superhero technology to use, but he was never born a super like the Incredibles are. And Screenslaver, again, just used hypnotic technology, and Evelyn Dever was just a genius inventor, not an actual super. And so I do think it is finally time for the franchise to have the supers face off against a villain who is also a super. One of the best bits of Incredibles 2, in my opinion, was when the supers were fighting other mind-controlled supers, and we got to see all of those really cool action sequences with the different powers, like Void versus Violet was just amazing to see. And having superheroes fight other superheroes can lead to danger to civilian lives, as well as initiating whether superheroes should be legal or not. Kind of like an Age of Ultron Civil War situation from the MCU. And it just so happens that The Incredibles already has an ultimate super villain. None other than Jack Jack. Jack Jack is like no other super we've ever seen before. Edna says,
"Not unknown for supers to have more than one power when young, but this little one has many."
Meaning it's common for supers to have more than one power, like how Violet has force fields and invisibility. But Jack Jack is something very different, having more powers than anyone else. And judging by what Edna says here, it looks like this is not going to change, and that Jack Jack will grow up with all of these powers. And having a superhero with an unmatched amount of powers is basically the origin of a great villain. For reference, all of Jack Jack's 17 powers are multiplication, demon transformation, which already is basically a villain in itself, fire, laser eyes, extreme growth, dimension hopping, carbon copying features, super strength, invulnerability, levitation, telekinesis, sneeze-induced flight, electricity emission, walking through walls, turning to metal, blobbing, mimicry, and polymorphing, which is basically being able to use several powers at once. And there's probably loads more. And so the third film could see Jack Jack use more of these powers and get out of control with them, or he could get influenced by another villain to go against other supers, kind of like an Anakin Skywalker situation. After all, one of the biggest themes in these past two films have been the family dynamics and how close the Incredibles are. If Jack Jack betrayed them, it would certainly stir up those close-knit family dynamics. Now, all of this depends on one thing: whether they do a time jump or not. So far, the entire Incredibles franchise only really takes place within the space of like a month or two, since the second film takes place directly after the first film in the fight against the Underminer. Now, they could do that again if they wanted to, however, the last film only ended with a robbery chase, which we already kind of saw in the first film, so it's not really necessary to do that again. And with the two films of Jack Jack being a baby, I think it's time we see him grow up. Now, they could do a massive time jump, which is not unheard of for Pixar. The jump between Toy Story 2 and 3 saw Andy go from a kid to moving to college, which in fairness there was a 12-year jump between when the films were made in real time. So they could do a jump ahead and have all the kids as adults or teenagers, which could see how Jack Jack could become a villain. If they don't do a time jump, Jack Jack with all of these powers will still be very relevant to the plot, and I reckon will definitely tie into whoever the villain ends up being. And instead, we could see Jack Jack as the main villain in Incredibles 4 or 5, because let's be realistic, if they are making a third one, they'll be making a fourth one and probably a fifth one as well. But what do you guys think about this? Do you reckon that Jack Jack could potentially be a villain in Incredibles 3 or in future Incredibles films if he doesn't make the cut in this third film? Let me know all your thoughts down below and what you think Jack Jack would be like as a villain. And as always, we've been here on Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.